Welcome into the YouTube edition of Prep Picks. The gang is all here. Andrew, Casey, Steve from ESPN Tri-Cities, TriCitiesSports.com, and Cole. It's a tight bunch at the leaderboard. We didn't disagree much last week, so not a huge standings change, but let's see if we could mix things up a little bit this week. A much more interesting slate of games, I would say. A lot more local teams playing each other, so that should maybe help mix things up a little bit. First game on the agenda, Grundy at Honaker. Do the Golden Wave have a second straight upset in the books? What do you think, Andrew?
No, I don't think they do. I mean, Magic can strike once, but I don't think they'll strike twice. Honaker and Patrick Henry, two different teams entirely, so, I mean, Grundy's not going to be able to use the same defense they used last week. PH, a more ground and pound football team. Honaker, they're going to air that football out, and I don't know. Grundy's really got the secondary to compete with Honaker's skill players, so I'm going to go Honaker in this one.
Casey?
Honaker's defense has given up some points the last couple of weeks to Rye Cove and to Holston. Their offense, they're still scoring in the 40s against a very good competition. I think maybe if they were going to take Grundy for granted, look past them, that changed after they beat PH. So I think a focused Honaker team gets a win at home.
Team.
Yeah, Grundy, I think they beat Honaker twice last year.
And playoffs, too.
Yeah, once in the playoffs. So Honaker remembers that. Casey's right, Honaker's given up some points, especially through the passing game. Gave up 3 touchdown passes, 273 yards, to Noah Tweed from Holston last week. That's a concern. The other concern is the status of Avery Music. He had 8 catches, 173 yards, 3 touchdowns last week for Honaker. Leaves the game late with an injury. Is he going to be available? That might... Honaker might be missing a chord, if you will, there, but I still think they've got enough chords in the arsenal to get the win over Grundy.
Only takes a little bit of music, right?
Yes, only
I saw you were going there.
Yeah, congratulations to Grundy on that big win. Shocker. I mean, Keegan Bartley and company. But that's where I'm looking at this game as if you're looking at a point spread in the NFL or college, where typically the week after, a team riding a really big high, they might come in flat the next week, the following week. And I think that's what we might get a little bit of here. And if Grundy does that, they come in a little bit flat to Honaker. Honaker's offense is too good. They're going to fall behind early, and I don't think they'll be able to battle back from that, so I'll go with the Tigers.
We all just dismissed the fact that Honaker made the deepest run in the playoffs of any team in Southwest Virginia last year.
Grundy.
Grundy did, yeah. And I think Grundy took offense to that, like they're being overlooked. But I do not think they have the weapons to compete with Honaker. I do not think many 1A teams do, or Class 1 teams do. So I'm going to go with Honaker as well. But I like what you're doing up there, Grundy. I like what you're doing. All right. Patrick Henry, speaking of Grundy, suffered that upset last week at the hand of the Golden Wave. Can John Battle make it 2 straight losses for the Rebels? Casey?
No, John Battle coming off a bye week, but this might be the wrong time to be playing Patrick Henry. I'm sure the Rebels hasn't been a fun week of practice. I think Patrick Henry gets back on track and they get a win over a bigger school in John Battle.
And Battle had all that momentum coming off that season opening win against Abingdon, but the offense has just not been able to complete drives, mistakes, turnovers, penalties, things like that. The defense has been good enough to keep Trojans in the game. I think that can happen again this week, but ultimately, yeah, Patrick Henry's still they're a little upset that they were upset last week. So I'll go with the Rebels.
Cool.
Yeah, I was looking at this like the same as the first game, but from the opposite lens, and that you have too good of a team in Patrick Henry to drop 2 straight. I think it bodes well for a good team that loses going into the following week to bounce back. John Battle has impressed us a little bit. They're a couple of plays away from being 3-0, quite honestly, with that 1-score loss to Virginia High, the overtime loss to Holston. So they're right there. They've taken a huge leap from last year, but I don't see Patrick Henry losing at home back-to-back weeks.
Andrew?
John Battle is going to need some good speed Friday night to catch up with Cameron Goodspeed. Give me PH.
Oh, you've been waiting all week to say that. I'll make this a coin sweep, but I do like what's going on at John Battle. I think that program is definitely headed in the right direction. Our Friday night rivals game of the week, Union and Gate City. This game's actually at Bullitt Park, correct?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. At Union. So, Steve, we'll start with you because I know these are 2 of your biggest fans, fan base-wise.
Especially when I pick against them. They really like me when I pick against them. So one will be happy this week. But Union's won all of its games against Virginia teams. Its only loss has been to Science Hill. They go to Graham last week. Graham had won 33 straight regular season games, 18 straight overall, and Union beat Graham in its own game, winning the line of scrimmage. I like what that bodes well for Union down the line, especially when they play teams like Gate City. Gate City back on the winning track, but I don't know that they're really overly pleased with that 20-7 win over Marion. I'm going to stick with my Union Bears to win this one.
Cool.
Yeah, I was going to say that, you know, the win for Gate City was a good bounce back, but I don't think they played the way they wanted to. Just 13-point win over Marion. I think they would have liked to have that be a bigger win there, a low blowout. But, you know, they got to get something right. They haven't had the big plays on offense. Union, I think we overlooked a little bit the first couple of weeks. I mean, they didn't give up a point the first couple of weeks. That tough one at Science Hill and beating Graham, I think that was a big statement win for them. I think they're going to keep rolling that high and go win this one here at Bullitt Park.
Speaking of upset, I mean, Union was upset after losing to Science Hill, even though, I mean, it's a 6A school against 2A school. Union's probably upset still that they lost not just once but twice last year to Gate City. I mean, that's something that's I don't think has gone out of the Bears' heads, and I think they're going to take out some revenge from last season on Gate City Friday night. So give me Union and give me Union by 3 touchdowns.
Oh, wow. Casey.
Wow.
Gate City, they need this game more than Union does. Gate City already lost their Mountain 7 opener to Abingdon. If they fall to 0-2, and Coach Housewright told me this, he's like, we will pretty much have to rely on a lot of help to get back in the race if we fall to 0-2 in the Mountain 7. Gate City needs it more. However, as Andrew mentioned, Gate City beat Union twice last year. And I asked Travis Turner how often that has happened in the history of Union, and he could maybe think of one other time it happened when Gate City back in like 2011, 2012 perhaps, so it doesn't happen often. I think they're going to be walking into a hornet's nest at Bullitt Park, the fact that they just got that win over Graham, and if they lose this game, that win over Graham, it kind of gets washed away. So I think Union gets the win over Gate City and a little payback for last year.
Used to have a big winning streak like Graham had. I'm on your train. I'm riding and I'm conducting. I'm going with Union Bears, which probably is not good news because usually when I pick them, they lose. So sorry, Union. Betsy and Sullivan East. Elizabethton has not played a home game yet, and they will not again this week as they head to Sullivan East. Cole, I know you had a chance to talk to Sean Witten earlier this week.
Yeah, Road Warriors. They've been on the road all season, and they continue that this week and next week before 4 home games to finish out the regular season. But they love it. Coach Sean Witten says that he's excited in how they've been able to perform on the road in tough environments. And the fact that they get to go to Bluff City for a team that he says this is probably the best team they've had in several years. So he knows that they have a tough game ahead of them, but they're prepared. They know they have to play against Drake Fisher, who's arguably the best quarterback in the area right now. So it's not like they're going in and being too overconfident with their 4-0 record. I think they're able to defend Sullivan East, slow them down a little bit. I've gone with Sullivan East all year long. It's going to be the first time I go against it. I got to go with Elizabethton.
Andrew?
I mean, one thing I've learned since I've got here is don't pick against Elizabethton unless they're playing Greenville, so I'm going with Elizabethton.
Sullivan East had a really big win last week over Granger. That pretty much put them in position now to get back into the playoffs. As long as they win one of their final 2 games, not against Greenville and Elizabethton, I think it's Northview Academy and Cherokee. They just need one more, I think, to get in the playoffs. Coach Witten said this might be the best Sullivan East team. That's probably true. But Sullivan East, they gave up 48 points to Tennessee High. Elizabethton, I think a better team than Tennessee High is. I think Elizabethton wins big.
Yeah, East has not won this game since 2007. Most of the last few games have not been very close, but this is not those Sullivan East teams, okay? Those Sullivan East teams didn't have quarterback Drake Fisher, senior quarterback at that, all those offensive playmakers, an offensive line that's keeping him clean, things like that. So East, as Casey mentioned, did its job last week against Ranger. They have nothing to lose this week. Go out, play loose. Nobody on this panel is picking East to win. Nobody's probably going to pick East to win next week either. It doesn't matter. Go out, measure yourselves against the 2 best teams, 2 of the best teams in Class 4A in the state of Tennessee. See what you can do to get big wins like this in November. Have fun, pull off the upset perhaps. It's going to be a big night in Bluff City. I still got to go with the Cyclones, but I think Sullivan East, these next 2 weeks are going to be tough, but they're going to benefit them come November.
So if Sullivan East beats Elizabethton this week, I might pick them next week against Greenville because I think Elizabethton may be better than Greenville. We'll see when they play it out on the field here in a few weeks. But at this point, I have to agree with the panel. I'm going to go with East because they're a lot better, and it's going to be closer than it was in previous years, but they're not quite there yet. Abingdon at Tennessee High, a fascinating cross-state, which kind of become a little bit of a tradition. They're playing this game a little bit more often. We will start with Andrew.
Tennessee High, I mean, they've had some tough few weeks, and I think they finally get back on the winning streak this time against a tough Abingdon team. I mean, this is an Abingdon team this is kind of just a game that's, if you lose, you lose. I mean, if you win, it keeps on riding the big streak that they've got going. But out of Tennessee High, they've had that tough streak, and they've played some really tough teams. Sevier County, Mo West. I think they finally get a win this week against Abingdon.
Casey.
We've done this game on Friday Night Rivals each of the last 2 seasons, and frankly, neither game was competitive. Last year, Tennessee High rolled over Abingdon at Falcon Stadium. 2 years ago, Abingdon rolled over Tennessee High at the Stone Castle, so the road team has won the last 2 in this series. I think that streak ends. Tennessee High gets the win after back-to-back losses to Mo West and Sevier County. They need a get-right game, and this is that one.
Yeah, those road wins were by identical 34-14 scores as well. This is supposed to be the 4th straight year, 5th straight year these teams have met. 2020 happened, and I don't think they got to play in 2020, but nonetheless, it's a good little community rivalry here, cross-state rivalry. A couple weeks ago, probably everybody was picking Tennessee High comfortably. Vikings last couple weeks have struggled against them, like Andrew said, good competition. Meanwhile, Abingdon, they rolled up 288 yards rushing last week against Richlands, only allowed minus 11 yards on the ground. Tennessee High has got to be able to run the football in this football game to win it. I think they will do that enough to get the win, but Tennessee High's lost 4 in a row at the Stone Castle. They need a home win in a bad way.
Cole?
Yeah, these teams, I think Casey and Steve both mentioned, if you looked a few weeks ago, Tennessee High, you'd pick them, no doubt. I think Abingdon has closed that gap after these last couple of weeks. They've tuned up their game and definitely improved from those first 2 weeks where they looked like they struggled quite a bit. But Tennessee at home, I picked against them all year. I'm going to give them a bone this time. They're going to win at home.
So, going into the season, almost everybody out here would have agreed that Gate City was maybe the best team in the Mountain 7. Abingdon beat Gate City. I think that they have figured some things out, the Falcons, and I'm going to break it. We've all agreed the entire show. I'm over it. Give me my Falcons. All right.
Plus, she's in the lead, too.
Well, yeah, I can afford to pick an upset. All right, so let's pick some games that we didn't pick on the TV show, starting with a nice Carter County rivalry, Hampton at Cloudland. Both these teams are just outside the AP polls in the state of Tennessee. Casey, what do you like in this game?
I like Hampton. I think they've got things rolling the last couple of weeks. They were a little slow out of the gate, which is unaccustomed to the Bulldogs, but I think they win. Too many numbers, size on the line. Hampton, I think, with a big win.
Steve?
These two teams have played 6 times in the last 4 years, and Hampton's won all 6 by an average margin of 32.5 points. Two teams have 2 common opponents this year. Cloudland beat Happy Valley by 2. Hampton beat Happy Valley by 36. And Cloudland lost to Johnson County, and Hampton beat Johnson County. An aggregate margin difference points there, 63. I'm going to go with Hampton.
It's a lot of math, but I like it. Cool.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to compare the common opponents, and with Happy Valley, Cloudland winning that one on a crazy. That game was decided on a pick 6. Andrew was there for that one in week 1. Yeah, I just don't see Cloudland keeping up and stopping Hampton here. I got to see him a couple of weeks ago. Came out slow, but ended up beating Happy Valley pretty good. I think that this is the best other team in that region in 2A to keep up with, to compete with South Green for that district title. So I'm going to go with Hampton.
Hampton, I mean, I think they've been trying to find the holes they've had to fill a pretty big hole with Levi Lunsford graduating. So, I mean, they've been trying to figure out the past few weeks on who they can finally get to be that back, and it looks like Dominic Burleson's going to be that back for Hampton, and he kind of erupted last game, had a really good game against Happy Valley, and I think Hampton ends up getting the win this Friday night against Cloudland.
Okay, I'm picking Hampton too, and I love what they're doing. They're getting things turned around. But I just got to get this off my chest, and this seems like as good a place as any to do it. Whoever in the Tennessee AP is picking Hampton above South Green, who is undefeated, stop it. Stop it, stop it, stop it. I do not understand. Picking Hampton, love it this week, but just had to say that. feel better now. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. All right, Crockett at Westridge. Steve.
Yeah, Crockett really, with what they've had to endure at quarterback and making the switch to Jake Whaley, going to the linebacker last week, he accounts for 4 touchdowns playing quarterback, and then at linebacker, 15 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, a quarterback sack, forced a fumble, recovered a fumble, broke up a pass. I mean, what did he not do? I mean, did he play in the band and sell popcorn?
Mow the field?
Seriously, yeah. Great job by him. What a step up for your team. And now you're going to go face a Westridge team that also got 4 touchdowns from its quarterback, Trey Frazier. The Wolves are really finding themselves running the football. Chase Gill, over 100 yards again, 2 touchdowns. Ethan Amex, a long touchdown. That Wolf offensive line, let's go for it. Josh Seto, Noah Timpton, Trent Tatum, Carson Abbott. Oh, man. That's 4 out of 5 off the top of my head. That's better than Meatloaf, okay? So that's not too bad. I'm going to go with Westridge in this one.
Cole.
That was good. I love it. I love it. Yeah, Westridge has been impressive on the offensive side of the ball so far this year. Put up another 49 in a big district game last Friday. Crockett, just don't think they can keep up with that Trey Frazier-led offense. They haven't shown enough where they can kind of get in a shootout here and win this one on the road. I'll go with the Wolves.
I got to actually see Westridge Friday night, and it was kind of fun to watch. I mean, this is a William Blount team everybody thought was going to come into Blountville on Friday night and just kind of roll over the Wolves. William Blount first. I talked to Coach Hilton right before the second half was starting. I said, hey, please score some points real quick so I can get them on the highlights. And he said, I got you. Well, he sure did. William Blount took a nice little drive down the field, scored, took the lead just like that, 24-21. Very next play, like Steve said, Ethan Amex took it 80 yards on a halfback sweep to the end zone, and then Trey Frazier it ended up doing what Trey Frazier needed to do. Ran the ball, threw for some touchdowns. I think Westridge puts up 50 this Friday night against Crockett.
Andrew just like throwing out the score predictions too. He's trying to, he's not going to get you extra points. You're still in last place. Casey.
Bonus points.
If we only knew it took Andrew asking for offense for Westridge to score points, I think probably asking for a few more points against Dobbins Bennett a few weeks ago. There, and apologies to the 5th unnamed lineman for Westridge. Maybe Steve will give you a shout out next week on the show here. Yeah, I think Westridge, I think they're going to get this win. David Crockett, you know, they did have that big win over, as Steve mentioned last week, but it was against Cocke County, who's not a very good football team. So this is a step up. Westridge is at home. I think the Wolves get a win.
And let's talk about this too. If Westridge in a couple weeks beats Science Hill, we could have a potential final week of the season like this region has been the past few years, to where it all comes down to that final game and how everybody does that final game. So I mean, this Westridge team I think is getting hot right at the right time too.
Yeah, and I don't think any of us saw that. I think we all thought that, you know, Science Hill was going to win, and then it would be Westridge and Dobbins Bennett battling out for that other playoff position. But here we are. I like Westridge in this game as well. A few weeks ago, we are probably not picking any games for Hurley, but they've really kind of shown some things the last couple of weeks. They've played really well, so I figured, why not? Let's give Buchanan County some love. We picked 2 from them this time. This week they're at Holston. That's a pretty tough ask. Let's start with Cole in this one.
Yeah, Hurley's been able to put up points the last couple weeks, as you mentioned, a couple of 30-point games, but Holston's got a pretty good defense. They're pretty good, and some of the points they haven't allowed, and they can also put up points when they need to. So it's a tough ask for Hurley to go in and win on the road to Holston. I'm going to go with the Cavs.
Andrew?
Give me the Cavs Friday night. It's a team that almost beat Honaker last week, so I don't see why they couldn't beat anybody else too. So
I'm taking Holston. I was one of the few on the panel that picked them to beat John Battle. I think someone down at this end of the table agreed with me. Yes. So I'm not going to abandon them now. I'll go with Holston with the home win.
I mean, Hurley apparently is playing for the Kentucky State Championship. I mean, they played 3 teams out of Kentucky. So it's hard for me to evaluate really the Rebels based on the opposition, because I'm just going to be honest, I don't know a lot about high school football in Kentucky. I am 1-0 picking Kentucky teams this year. But nonetheless, Hurley, big play Rebels last week, 63 yards or more scores for 3 touchdowns. But like I said, Cole, I think that Holston defense is going to be too tough. And I'll go with Holston.
You'll probably end 1-0, because I don't think we'll pick Letcher County unless somehow magically they play one of the other teams from our area the rest of the year, which I don't think they do. I love what Hurley's doing. It wasn't that long ago that this was a really good Class 1 team. They've kind of fallen on hard times, and they're starting to get things corrected. That whole Holston defense is tough. So I'm gonna make it a clean sweep and go with Holston. All right, this last matchup I call, who are these teams? I mean, who is Lehigh? Who is Ridgeview? 1 week Lehigh has like 75 touchdowns last week and puts up a school record. Our player of the week is from Lehigh. Meanwhile, Ridgeview, we think like they're rolling. And then last week they just looked really flat. So we don't really know who these teams are. But which team is going to win the game? Start with Andrew.
Okay, so I've kind of got some interesting stat lines just because, like Heather just said, our player of the week this week, Brendan Pendergraft from Lehigh. What a game last week, 6 touchdowns. Ended up breaking his uncle's record, which was set back in the day when Joey Carroll was playing with his uncle in the 90s at Lehigh. It was 4 touchdowns by his uncle, and his dad was the cornerback too. So what a family connection. But first week of the season, Lehigh played Union. Game got called after 2 quarters, 3 quarters of rain delay. He didn't get to play full game. Week 2, Brendan Pendergraft, the second drive of the game, goes down with an injury. He was done the rest of the night. So this is a kid that finally last week got to play 1 full game finally and threw 6 touchdowns. What does he do in the second full game? I think he ends up having another big game this week against Ridgeview on the road. And I know Ridgeview people won't like this, but I'm going to go Lehigh.
Casey.
Well, I believe that game last week, was that against another Kentucky school? Was that a Kentucky school?
Yes.
So Steve's scouting report, maybe I'm known for how good that team was that they did that against, but I did get to see Ridgeview the entire game last week. Coach did that on Rivals. Their defense through 4 games has allowed 13 points. Kent Grant, the defensive coordinator, does an outstanding job with them. Now, last week, Virginia High was the best team they played all year. It was the first 4-quarter game. They had to play Ridgeview. You have to play anybody with a winning record this season. So I think this is maybe another step up. Lehigh, certainly, I think maybe a better offense than Virginia High. I don't know if their defense is going to be as good. I think Ridgeview, Ryan O'Quinn will be too much at home. I like Ridgeview.
Yeah, that win last week for Lee, that was over Pinewood Derby, Kentucky, by the way. But, yeah, you know, Union, Ryan O'Quinn, the offense only scored 16 points last week, but O'Quinn, he makes a big interception on the defensive end, I believe, as well for the Wolfpack. So he's doing it on both sides of the ball. I'm not worried about the Ridgeview offense. They're going to be fine. When you're playing defense like they are as well, you don't have to score 50 points a game to get the win, and they'll get the win over Lee this week.
Yeah, and sometimes that good defense turns into offense. That can turn into points, whether it's defensive points or you're getting the ball back, good field position. They'll figure it out. 16 points at Virginia High, I think, was a low ball. I think we all expected them to score more, but like you said, they'll figure it out. Virginia High pushed them around a little bit. Like Casey said, the best team they played so far. I think Lehigh comes in and it makes it somewhat of a football game, but I'm going to go with Ridgeview.
So, Andrew, I like where your head is. I was very high on this Lehigh
Oh, and
team.
I'll say this, too. Lee doesn't have just Pendergraft, too. I mean, and this is what I thought last year. I thought all these older skill players, they've got Grayson Huff in the backfield, too, who ended up playing a big game. So even if Ridgeview can only contain Pendergraft, there's still Connor Early, too, at the slot.
He's like their SID.
He is. He is. But I like what they're doing at Lehigh, and I was really high on them coming into the season. They did not have the start to the season that I thought they were going to. Some of that, you know, is contingent on that Union game because they looked really flat in that Union game. I think Lehigh is an improved football team. I think they're a good football team. Do not think they're at Ridgeview's level quite yet. So, Andrew, you're all alone on that limb this week.
Go ahead and give me that win and put me back in the standings.
I'm going with Ridgeview as well. All right, fun as always, guys. If you want to check out the TV version, it's at WCYB.com. And don't forget to join us on Friday nights for Friday Night Huddle.
I'll see you all in second place next week.